Hello, everyone, and welcome to Voices of Arda. We are doing a special collaboration with the one, the only, Jordan Rannells. What's up, Jordan? How you doing?
Good, good.
Woo!
Happy to
Yes.
be here.
If you guys are not familiar with Jordan, he is the creator of a long expected soundscape, magnificent soundscapes for your readings, and that is what we'll be doing today. We'll be reading excerpts from The Lord of the Rings, and we are about to kick things off. We are going to begin our readings with The Ring Goes South from the Fellowship of the Ring. It's chapter 3.
Elrond summoned the hobbits to him. He looked gravely at Frodo.
The time has come, he said. If the ring is set out, it must go soon. But those who go with it must not count on their errand being aided by war or force. They must pass into the domain of the enemy, far from aid. Do you still hold to your word, Frodo, that you will be the ring bearer?
I do.
Said Frodo.
I will go with Sam.
Then I cannot help you much, not even with counsel, said Elrond. I can foresee very little on your road, and how your task is to be achieved, I do not know. The shadow has crept now to the feet of the mountains and draws nigh even to the borders of the Grey Flood. And under the shadow all is dark to me. You will meet many foes, some open and some disguised, and you may find friends upon your way when you least look for it. I will send out messages such as I can contrive to those whom I know in the wide world. But so perilous are the lands now become that some may well miscarry, or come no quicker than you yourself. And I will choose you companions to go with you, as far as they will or fortune allows. The number must be few, since your hope is in speed and secrecy. Had I a host of elves in armor of elder days, it would avail little, save to arouse the power of Mordor. The company of the ring shall be 9, and the 9 walkers shall be set against the 9 riders that are evil. With you and your faithful servant Gandalf will go, for this shall be his great task, and maybe the end of his labors. For the rest, they shall represent the other free peoples of the world, elves, dwarves, and men. Legolas shall be for the elves, and Gimli, son of Glóin, for the dwarves. They are willing to go at least to the passes of the mountains and maybe beyond. For men, you shall have Aragorn, son of Arathorn, for the ring of Isildur concerns him closely.
Strider?
Cried Frodo.
Yes,
He said with a smile.
I ask leave once again to be your companion, Frodo.
I would have begged you to come.
Said Frodo.
Only I thought you were going to Minas Tirith with Boromir.
I am,
Said Aragorn.
and the sword that was broken shall be reforged ere I set out to war. But your road and our road lie together for many hundreds of miles. Therefore Boromir will also be in the company. He is a valiant man.
There remain 2 more to be found, said Elrond. These I will consider. Of my household, I may find some that it seems good to me to send.
But that will leave no place for us, cried Pippin. You don't want to be left behind. You want to go with Frodo.
That is because you do not understand and cannot imagine what lies ahead.
Said Elrond.
Leave.
Neither does Frodo.
Said Gandalf, unexpectedly supporting Pippin.
Nor do any of us see clearly. It is true that if these hobbits understood the danger, they would not dare to go, but they would still wish to go, or wish that they dared, and be shamed and unhappy, I think. Elrond, that in this manner it would be well to trust rather to their friendship than to great wisdom. Even if you chose for us an elf lord such as Glorfindel, he could not storm the Dark Tower, nor open the road to the fire by the power that is in him.
You speak gravely,
Said Elrond.
but I am in doubt. The Shire I forebode is not free now from peril. And these 2 I had thought to send back there as messengers to do what they could according to the fashion of their country to warn the people of their danger. In any case, I judge that the younger of these 2, Peregrine Took, should remain. My heart is against his going.
Then Master Elrond will have to lock me in prison or send me home tied in a sack, said Pippin. I shall follow.
Let it be so then. You shall go, said Elrond, and he sighed. Now the tale of 9 is filled. In 7 days the company must depart. The next part we will be reading is Book 3, Chapter 4, Treebeard.
Treebeard strode up the slope, hardly slackening his pace. Suddenly before them the hobbits saw a wide opening. 2 great trees stood there, one on either side, like living gateposts, but there was no gate save their crossing interwoven boughs. As the old Ent approached, the trees lifted up their branches, and all their leaves quivered and rustled. For they were evergreen trees, and their leaves were dark and polished, and gleamed in the twilight. Beyond them was a wide level space, as though the floor of a great hall had been cut into the side of the hill. On either hand, the walls sloped upwards until they were 50 feet high or more, and along each wall stood an aisle of trees that also increased in height as they marched inwards. At the far end, the rock wall was sheer, but at the bottom it had been hollowed back into a shallow bay with an arched roof, the only roof of all the hall, save the branches of the trees, which at the inner end overshadowed all the ground, leaving only a broad open path in the middle. A little stream escaped from the springs above, and leaving the main water fell tinkling down the sheer face of the wall, pouring in silver drops like a fine curtain in front of the arched bay. The water was gathered again into a stone basin on the floor between the trees, and thence it spilled and flowed away beside the open path, out to rejoin the Entwash in its journey through the forest.
Here we are,
said Treebeard, breaking his long silence.
I have brought you about 70,000 Entstrides. But what that comes to in the measurement of your land, I do not know. Anyhow, we are near the roots of the last mountain. Part of the name of this place might be Welling Hall, if it were turned into your language. I like it. We will stay here tonight.
He set them down on the grass between the aisles of the trees, and they followed him towards the great arch. The hobbits now noticed that as he walked, his knees hardly bent, but his legs opened in a great stride. He planted his big toes, and they were indeed big and very broad, on the ground first, before any part of his feet. For a moment, Treebeard stood under the rain of the falling spring, and took a deep breath. Then he laughed, and passed inside. A great stone table stood there, but no chairs. At the back of the bay, it was already quite dark. Treebeard lifted 2 great vessels and stood them on the table. They seemed to be filled with water, but he held his hands over them, and immediately they began to glow, one with a golden and the other with a rich green light, and the blending of the 2 lights lit the bay, as if the sun of summer was shining through a roof of young leaves. Looking back, the hobbits saw that the trees in the court had also begun to glow, faintly at first, but steadily quickening, until every leaf was edged with light, some green, some gold, some red as copper, while the tree trunks looked like pillars molded out of luminous stone.
Well, well. Now we can talk again,
said Treebeard.
You are thirsty, I expect. Perhaps you are also tired. Drink this.
He went to the back of the bay, and then they saw that several tall stone jars stood there, with heavy lids. He removed one of the lids, and dipped in a great ladle, and with it filled 3 bowls, one very large bowl, and 2 smaller ones.
This is an ant house,
He said.
and there are no seats, I fear, but you may sit on the table.
Picking up the hobbits, he set them on the great stone slab, 6 feet above the ground, and there they sat, dangling their legs and drinking in sips. The drink was like water, indeed very like the taste of the draughts they had drunk from the ant wash near the borders of the forest, and yet there was some scent or savor in it which they could not describe. It was faint, but it reminded them of the smell of a distant wood borne from afar by a cool breeze at night. The effect of the draught began at their toes and rose steadily through every limb, bringing refreshment and vigor as it coursed upwards, right to the tips of the hair. Indeed, the hobbits felt that the hair on their heads was actually standing up, waving and curling and growing. As for Treebeard, he first laved his feet in the basin beyond the arch, and then he drained his bowl at one draught, one long, slow draught. The hobbits thought he would never stop. At last, he set the bowl down again.
Ah,
He sighed.
Now we can talk easier. You can sit on the floor, and I will lie down. That will prevent this drink from rising to my head and sending me to sleep.
So next, guys, we're going to be getting into Book 5, Chapter 6, The Battle of the Pelennor Field.
But Theoden was not utterly forsaken. The knights of his house lay slain about him, or else mastered by the madness of their steeds were borne far away. Yet one stood there still, Bernhelm the young, faithful beyond fear, and he wept, for he had loved his lord as a father. Right through the charge, Merry had borne unharmed behind him until the shadow came, and then Windfeller had thrown him in his terror, and now ran wild upon the plain. Merry crawled on all fours like a dazed beast, and such a horror was on him that he was blind and sick. King's man, his heart cried within him. You must stay by him. As a father you shall be to me, you said. But his will made no answer, and his body shook. He dared not open his eyes or look up. Then, out of the blackness in his mind, he thought that he heard Dernhelm speaking. Yet now the voice seemed strange, recalling some other voice that he had known. Begone, foul Dimmerlake, Lord of Parion. Leave the dead in peace. A cold voice answered. Come not between the Nazgul and his prey, or he will not slay thee in thy turn. He will bear thee away to the houses of lamentation, beyond all darkness, where thy flesh shall be devoured, and thy shriveled mind be left naked to the lidless eye. A sword rang as it was drawn. Do what you will, but I will hinder it if I may. Hinder me, thou fool? No living man may hinder me.
Then Merry heard of all sounds in that hour the strangest. It seemed that Dernhelm laughed, and the clear voice was like the ring of steel. But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Eowyn I am, Eowyn's daughter. You stand between me and my lord and kin. Begone, if you be not deathless. For living or dark undead, I will smite you if you touch him. The winged creature screamed at her, but the ringwraith made no answer and was silent, as if in sudden doubt. Very amazement for a moment conquered Merry's fear. He opened his eyes, and the blackness was lifted with them. There, some paces from him, sat the great beast, and all seemed dark about it, and above it loomed the Nazgul Lord like a shadow of despair. A little to the left, facing them, stood she whom he had called Dernhelm, but the helm of her secrecy had fallen from her, and her bright hair, released from its bonds, gleamed with pale gold upon her shoulders. Her eyes, grey as the sea, were hard and fell, and yet tears were on her cheek. A sword was raised in her hand, and she raised her shield against the horror of her enemy's eyes. Eowyn it was, and Dernhelm also, but into Merry's mind flashed the memory of the face that he saw at the riding from Dunharrow, the face of one that goes seeking death, having no hope. Pity filled his heart, and great wonder, and suddenly the slow-kindled courage of his race awoke. He clenched his hand. She should not die, so fair, so desperate. At least, she should not die alone, unaided. The face of their enemy was not turned towards him, but still he hardly dared to move, dreading lest the deadly eyes should fall on him. Slowly, slowly he began to crawl aside, but the black captive, in doubt and malice intent upon the woman before him, heeded him no more than a worm in the mud. Suddenly the great beast beat its hideous wings, and the wind of them was foul. Again it leapt into the air, and then swiftly fell down upon Eowyn, shrieking and striking the beak floor.
Felix did not wait. Maiden of Isles of Kings, thunder but as a steel blade, fair yet terrible. A swift stroke she killed with mercy. The outstretched neck she clove asunder, and the huge fell like a stone. Backward she sprang, as the huge shape pressed on, after wings trampled on her. Fall, the shadow passed away. A light fell up to her, and her hair shone in the sun. Out of the wreck rose the Black Rider, tall and threatening. Riot secret stung the very ears like venom that fell his mace. His shoes have shivered in many pieces, and her arm was broken. She stumbled to her knees. He bent over like a cloud, and his eyes glittered. He raised his mace to kill. But suddenly he too stumbled forward with a cry of bitter pain, and hit the quick by, driving into the ground. Mary's sword him behind, shearing through the black mantle and cutting up his sword that had pierced behind his mighty knee. Eowyn, Eowyn, cried Mary, then tottering the last strength drove her sword from crown and mantle, as the great shoulders bowed before her. Sword broke apart many jars, crown rolled away into the clank. They fell forward, fallen. The mantle and work were empty. Shaped they lay now on the ground, torn and tumbled, and a cry went up into the shuddering air, and faded. Body was the sin that died.
Having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.